Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I'm delighted to support the Conservative motion today. I can also say that I can support the government amendment to it, basically because it doesn't really say anything. But it's a good turnout that we have, at least on this side of the chamber today. There is, of course, what we might call an aching void in front of us on my left, apart from the few distinguished sentinels of socialism who have come to watch the proceedings and report back. But the first thing I want to do is to rise to the challenge which Stefan Lewis threw out earlier on to Nick Ramsey about what's our vision for Wales on devolved taxes. And I'm very much in favour of devolved taxes because it gives us the opportunity in Wales to add to our natural advantages, particularly in relation to the tourism industry. And I strongly, therefore, support the Plaid Cymru call for differential rates of VAT. It gives us the opportunity to reduce the tax burden in Wales relative to our neighbours, and therefore perhaps to help to correct the imbalance which has grown up over the years and which has been very eloquently described many times in this chamber by Adam Price about the poverty of Wales compared to other parts of the United Kingdom and how we need to do something really dramatic to correct that. My motivating force in politics all my life has been the ancient Gladstonian principle of allowing money to fructify in the pockets of the people. And so I have always generally opposed the introduction of new taxes and called for the reduction in the existing tax burden. And I think we have to recognise the economic background against which any proposal to introduce new taxes in Wales would have to be measured. The IFS has recently produced figures to show that we are now in Britain facing the highest tax burden that we've had since 1986, and there are £17 billion worth of tax rises in train for the rest of this Parliament. And if the government sticks to its stated objective of wiping out the deficit by 2025, that means an extra £34 billion of taxes. Thank you, very short.
Just to ask you, who was in government in 1986?
Yeah, well, indeed. We were, of course, clearing up the mess that was left to us in 1979. And, of course, many members in this Assembly are, of course, not old enough to remember those dark days of the 1970s, but there are some of us with long memories indeed. But this is an important debate because tourism is massively important to Wales, and as one of the members for Mid and West Wales, of course, we have all the best bits of the tourist industry, then it means it's of even greater importance to us. And it's very useful, I think, to introduce some of the background statistics into this, against which any new proposal for a tax would have to be measured. Wales's share of tourist visits to the UK is about 3%, and of those, 43% visit Wales only. The average stay in Wales is 6 nights, and the average spend is £363 per person. That's £61 per night on average, and that is much less than the average in the spend in the UK, which is £100. Now, we don't know at what rate any tourist tax would be imposed, but the Bevan Foundation suggested £1. Well, £1 on £61 may not seem very much, but bearing in mind the facts that I mentioned earlier on in questions to the Finance Secretary in relation to the price competitiveness of Britain in world markets. I'll repeat what I said earlier on, if I can find my glasses, that Britain is almost bottom of the world league table in terms of price competitive, 135th out of 136 countries. We, at our peril, make that situation even worse. And although it may not seem very much, £1 or £2 or whatever, it could be the straw that breaks the camel's back for many people, and anything which makes Wales a less attractive place to visit in terms of value for money cannot be good for the tourist industry. Yes, there are examples all around the world of the successful introduction of tourist taxes. Where they do tend to work is where demand on the part of tourists is pretty inelastic. Bath is currently, I believe, thinking about introducing some kind of a tourist tax. Well, getting around Bath in the tourist season is often very difficult. Venice is another case in point, or even New York or San Francisco, as mentioned by Joyce Watson earlier on. These are all international venues which have relatively inelastic demand for visits. Whether that would be so for Wales or all of Wales is a different matter altogether. And against the background of economic difficulty which we've lived and grappled with for many years, I do think that we'd be taking a very great risk indeed if we added further to the tax burden, and which might tend to make it a less attractive place for foreigners in particular to visit.
Susie